Okay, so the last 2 weeks, we've been working with solving equations. Now that we've learned how to do it by hand and solve for the variable, we are going to see different types of ways they could ask us those questions. So yeah, sometimes they're going to give us the equation like written out, now just solve. But there are going to be times where they give us something called models, or essentially like pictures. So the idea of it is you have to be able to write your own equation from the model or from the picture. Okay, so if I look at number 1, they like to use different shapes. The different shapes in those pictures, they either will give you a key of some sort that tells you what each shape represents, or they'll literally tell you in the picture what each shape is. So if you look at the triangles on this first one, in each triangle it has a negative x. Since there are 3 of them, we write negative 3x. And then in the individual circles, they only have the ones digits, and we're going to assume that they are positive because they don't have a negative symbol like these do. So if I count how many there are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And know that when we do this in class as well, I don't like to leave a gap between the two terms. So since 10 is positive, we're going to put a plus. On the other side of the equation, we have positive x values. So since there are 5 of them, it's just 5x. And now our singles digits are negative now, so since there's 2, 4, 6, 8 of them, and since they are negative, we're just going to put minus 8, okay? So if it's positive, we put plus. If it's negative, we put minus. And now we just do what we've been doing in class. So all you have to do is this new step that we learned is I want to move this 5x over to the left. In order to move positive 5x, we're going to subtract 5x, so think the opposite, so that the 5x's essentially cancel. And if I look on the left side, I just do the mental math. Negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8x. I want to bring down this plus 10. I want to bring down this negative 8 because that's what I have remaining. And then we just solve the 2-step like we've been doing. So I have multiplication, I have addition. The first step you want to do is the addition, and the opposite of adding 10 is to subtract 10. So negative 8 minus 10 is negative 18. And then negative 8x comes down because my 10's essentially canceled. And then my last step, if you play your cards right every single time, is the division problem. So all I have to do is divide by negative 8. Now I will say we've been seeing really nice answers whenever we've been doing these, like whole or integers. But now we're going to start seeing where we could get decimals as our answers. So you just have to trust that the math you're doing is correct. So I do negative 18 divided by negative 8, and we do get a decimal of 2.25. And that's it. So as long as you check to make sure all your work was correct, then you shouldn't make any errors. So number 2, same thing. This time they use squares and circles. In the squares themselves, if on the left side I have 4 positive x's, so we put 4x. I have 2 single digits, and since it's positives, I put plus 2. On the right side, I have 2 x's, and they're both positive. On the right side, I also have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 single digits, and since they are positive, we're going to put plus. And then we just do what we've been doing. So I want to move this 2x over to the left. Since it's positive, I'm going to subtract 2x. So that 2x's cancel. 4 minus 2x is 2x. I want to bring down the plus 2, bring down this positive 10. And now I want to solve for x. So I want to subtract 2. So that's 8. And then my last step should always technically be division. So I'm going to divide by 2. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. So that one came out nice and pretty. And then it's just kind of repetitive after that. It just becomes the same steps we've been doing. It's just if you make a mistake writing it, then you're going to do the math wrong. So if we look at number 3, I have 2, 4, 5 x's, and they're positives. I have a single digit, but it is a negative, so we're going to make it minus 1. On the right side, I have 5 x's as well, but these are negatives, so it's negative 5x. And I have a single digit. This one is positive, so we're going to put a plus. So then we solve. I want to move this negative 5x over to the left, so it's negative right now. We're going to make it positive. 5x plus 5x is 10x. I want to bring down this minus 1. I want to bring down this positive 1. And then we're going to add 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. My last step is divide by 10. And this is one of those where if you do the math correctly, yes, you do get a decimal because 2 divided by 10 is 0.2. So we've gotten really comfortable with doing the steps, and the reason why we build our confidence is so that way when we get to these kinds of questions and I get a decimal answer, I know I did it right and I didn't make a mistake, so I'm going to get a decimal answer. So I don't want you to always assume it's going to be a nice integer. Number 4, we have 4 x's, and then they're positive. I have 4 single digits, but they are negative, so we're going to put minus. On the right side, I have 1x, and since it's negative, it's a negative 1x. And then 1 single digit, but since it is negative, we're going to put minus 1. So just watch your signs on these. The x over here, since it's negative 1x, I want to add 1x. So I have 4 plus 1 is 5x. I'm going to bring down this minus 4, bring down this negative 1. So then I'm going to add 4. So negative 1 plus 4 is 3. And then I divide by 5. And again, just like the other ones, when I do 3 divided by 5, I do get a decimal. So again, because we're like, oh man, I'm not sure I did it right, you do get an answer bank on today's paper. So it just comes down to, as long as you see your answer, you know you did the math right, okay? All right, number 5. Excuse me. On the left side, all I have on the left side, though, are 4 x's. There are no single digits, and that happens. On the right side, I have 1x, and that's positive, and then 6 single digits, but since they're positive, I'm going to put a plus. We're still going to move this 1x over, so I'm going to subtract 1x. So 4 minus 1 is 3x. There's nothing to bring down next to the 3x, but I do have the 6 on the right side. Now, normally we would have to add or subtract, but there is nothing to add or subtract. So I move to my last step, which means all I have to do is divide. And 6 divided by 3 is 2. And this one does come out nice and pretty. Last one. Sometimes they like to throw us off a little. And so far we've been seeing single digits, but if I look at number 6, yes, I have 3 x's, so that's the same. And they're positive. But here, yes, I see 3 single digits, but each single digit has a value inside, and they represent it with tens. So this isn't 1, 2, 3, it's 10, 20, 30. And since it is positive, we're going to put a plus. On the right side, I have 2 x's, but they are negative x's, even though they're a little hard to see. So we put negative 2x. And then 1 single digit, but that single digit is a 10, not a 1. And since it is positive, we're going to put a plus. So just watch out for those kinds of questions, because they can throw us off with those. Then my steps, I want to move the negative 2x, so I'm going to add 2x. 3x plus 2x is 5x. Bring down the plus 30, bring down the 10. And then I want to subtract 30 since that's addition. We do the opposite. 10 minus 30 is negative 20. Bring down this 5x. And then my last step is to divide by 5. So negative 20 divided by 5 is negative 4. So just to reiterate, it's all really just about counting. But where you have to be careful is just making sure you do your steps correctly, do your signs correctly, because you will get some decimal answers today and for the test coming up next week. Okay, I want to go over this stuff because we've seen these kinds of questions on STAAR tests, and so it's not so much that we focus on it just because it's not gonna, if it's a question on the STAAR test, it's maybe one question on the STAAR test. So if we look at number 7, we've kind of talked about this when we did distribute and combine like terms. If the triangle and the rectangle have the same perimeter, find the value of x. So same perimeter means I add up all the sides. So if I look at number 7 on this rectangle, since they only give me 2 sides, I know the opposite sides are the same. So we combine like terms, remember where we do squares and circles? So my x's go together, and that's when I add them together, that's 2x. My constants go together. And since it's 10 plus 5 plus 10 plus 5, that's 30. And since it's positive, we put a plus. On the right side, on the triangle side, my x's, if I put together, there are 3 of them. And there are no single or constants, so it's just 3x. So if I solve, they want me to figure out what x represents. I want to move this 3x over to the left, so I'm going to subtract 3x. 2x minus 3x is negative 1x. Bring down the plus 30. On the right side, I don't have a single digit, so we have the 0 left. Then I want to subtract 30. So 0 minus 30 is negative 30. And then my last step is divide. Again, this is just one way we could see a possible question. It's not necessarily that we're going to focus on it, but it's just something that could happen. Negative 30 divided by negative 1 is positive 30. Okay, so I guess it's another way of seeing like a picture. You just have to do some simple math here first. If I look at number 8, it's a little more complicated, but not too difficult. Remember when we talked about parentheses? Anytime I see parentheses, there's something to multiply times inside the parentheses. Well, this one right here, there's nothing in front, so there's like an invisible 1. Well, 1 times 4x is 4x, and 1 times negative 2 is negative 2, so nothing really happens there. But on this one, I want to distribute the 2, so 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 7 is positive 14. So we do that first, and then we do our squares and circles. So if I do my squares, 2x plus 4x plus 2x is 8x. My singles, negative 2 plus 14 is plus 12. On the right side, we have a square, because all the sides are the same. That means it's 2.5x, 2.5x, 2.5x. And then when I add my squares together, because of the x's, you do 2.5 plus 2.5 plus 2.5 plus 2.5, and we get 10x, no singles. And then I solve just like we did the one on the left. So I'm going to subtract 10x. And yes, I know there's other ways to do this arrangement, but I just try to keep it consistent. 8 minus 10 is negative 2x. Bring down this plus 12. I'm going to have 0 on the right. I'm going to subtract 12. So 0 minus 12 is negative 12. And then my last step, I'm going to divide by negative 2. So x equals positive 6. So just another way to see it. Again, don't stress too much about it. We'll practice it throughout the year, but it's more or less just, can you take what we've learned and apply it to geometry, essentially, okay? But either way, today we're focusing on just the pictures of it, or models.